Have you ever met someone so calm, so unshakable, that no insult or anger could move them? Let me tell you a story of a young monk who taught a life-changing lesson. In the ancient hills of India, surrounded by forests and rivers, stood a monastery where disciples of the Buddha lived and practiced. It was a place of simplicity, mindfulness, and of inner transformation. Among the many monks was a young man named Kalyan. He was unlike the others, not because he was the wisest or the most senior, but because he chose silence, not a punishment, but a way of living. He spoke only when necessary. He never gossiped, never argued, never raised his voice. He got up early each morning, meditate in the gardens, help in the kitchens, and sweep the monastery floors. Quietly, peacefully. To some, he was mysterious. To others, he was admirable. But to one new disciple, he was a problem. A young man named Dev had just arrived at the monastery, eager to learn, burning with questions, and filled with impatience. Dev wanted answers, quickly. He asked the senior monks things like, "How long until I'm enlightened? How do I control my mind? What does it mean to let go?" But no answer seemed satisfying. And then he noticed Kalyan, sitting for hours under a Bodhi tree, still, silent, peaceful. First, Dev was curious. Then he became annoyed. How can he just sit there all day like that? Is he avoiding responsibility or pretending to be enlightened? He thought. Every day, Kalyan meditated. Every day, Dev was getting angrier and angrier. Eventually, Dev could no longer contain himself. He approached Kalyan and said sarcastically, "Do you think you're better than us? Too enlightened to speak?" Kalyan smiled gently, bowed slightly, and said nothing. This only made Dev angrier. Over the next few days, Dev began provoking him intentionally. He'd interrupt his meditation, spill water near his sleeping mat, swap his food with bitter herbs, even hide his prayer robe. But Kalyan never reacted. He would simply retrieve what was lost, clean what was dirty, and return to his meditation. Not once did he speak. Not once did he show anger. And for Dev, this was unbearable. Observing this growing tension, the Buddha finally approached Dev and asked gently, "Tell me, Dev, if someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" Dev thought for a moment and replied, "To the one who offered it, I suppose." The Buddha smiled. Exactly. When someone offers anger, hatred, or insult, and you do not accept it, it remains with them. Dev froze. He understood. All the frustration, all the resentment he had hurled at Kalyan had never touched him. It had only burned within himself. He had been shouting at still water, and only his own reflection shouted back. Ashamed and humbled, Dev turned to Kalyan. He bowed deeply and said, "I'm sorry, I misjudged you." And then, something unexpected happened. Kalyan opened his eyes, smiled, and spoke. He said, "Silence is not the absence of speech. It is the presence of peace." In just one sentence, he said what most could not explain in a lifetime. From that day on, Dev no longer argued. He stopped trying to prove his knowledge. Instead, he began to watch. to listen, to be still. He learned more from Kalyan's actions than from any lecture, because Kalyan had not just silenced his voice, he had silenced his ego. In a world full of noise, where people rush to reply, to argue, to be right, the greatest strength may lie in not reacting. The quietest moments hold the greatest insight. You do not have to accept every insult. You do not have to attend every argument you're invited to. As the Buddha said, you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. Be like the silent monk, strong, peaceful, unmoved by storms, because silence, when calm and sure, can speak louder than 1,000 words. Thanks for watching. If this story gave you something to think about, let it live on in your actions.